Good evening, KCW listeners, and we are back for another edition of the Evan Eischen podcast. We're going to break down Game 7 of the NBA Finals, and boy, oh boy, Cody, what a difference a week makes.
Yes, it does.
It does. This time last week, the Cavaliers were staring down the barrel of a 3-1 deficit, and we were about ready to bury them and just crown Golden State the champion, but there's an old saying that goes, there's a reason why we play the game. And we played the game because LeBron James did the impossible. Cleveland has a title.
Yeah, it was to come back from 3-1 down. I mean, there were a lot of people that buried the Cavs, and myself included, thinking that
and
not that Cleveland wasn't capable of coming back, but they were not playing well. Things weren't functioning well on offense. They were playing very spotty on defense. LeBron could not get anything going. Kyrie was scoring points, but it was on a volume basis. Nothing was going right for Cleveland, and all credit to them. They flipped the script. They started to tighten the screws up defensively. LeBron James got loose. Kyrie got loose as well, and that's all she wrote. But Cleveland closing out those 3 games was impressive. And LeBron James, Finals MVP, the best performance in the NBA Finals, in my opinion, in the history of the game. To lead the series in points, rebounds, steals, blocks, assists is just unbelievable. I mean, that is something that we have not seen ever, and something that may never happen again. That is truly, truly remarkable.
On June 8th was going to be the first game in Cleveland, Game 3. And if someone said to us then, oh, Cleveland's going to win the series, based on the first 2 games?
No, based on the first 2 games, you would have said absolutely not.
Based on the first 2 games is like no chance in hell. Unless, I don't know, Steph Curry breaks his leg during pregame. Like, I didn't think there was any other reason they'd lose unless Clay got hurt, Draymond got hurt. Well, he got suspended in Game 5, and you can make an argument on whether or not that's why they didn't close the series in Game 5. But these 2 teams, the first 6 games, they traded blowouts, but they weren't all the way blowouts. It was one team just pulled away late in the fourth quarter, and you kind of understood what it was. But Game 7, it was tied with 55 seconds left, and then Kyrie Irving hits that 3, and I felt at that moment, Cleveland's going to do it.
Ice cold 3 from Kyrie. Ice cold. I mean, that was just... You knew it was coming. You knew it was going to be him or LeBron, but he just pulled up on the wing. And Curry closed out and defended that impeccably well. But Kyrie Irving just over the top of the outstretched hand of Steph Curry. The Warriors were that close.
They were that close. And as some of the media said, hey, Warriors, say hi to the 18-1 Patriots for us.
Yep. Because,
according to them, the 73-9 season means nothing because they didn't win.
Well, and you look at it, and ultimately the goal is to win a championship, so they failed in that regard. But their regular season body of work as stacked up against the great seasons that teams have had in the past, I mean, it's not something you can ignore. The team won 73 games. That's phenomenal. It's impeccable in its own right. Yes, they didn't get it done to win a title, and Scottie Pippen and the Bulls, the 95-96, still pretty happy about it, as they say they're the best team ever, the 72-10 Bulls that won the title. But you can't take away what they did in the regular season. They just didn't play well in the key moments that they needed to in Game 7 and in some of the other games. But, late game execution for the Warriors in Game 7, shots didn't fall. Curry took a couple of questionable shots. They just didn't get it done late in the game. And I think it's something that, we expected so much from the Warriors. Golden State's still a very young team. Right?
Yeah.
In respect to it all, they're still a really young team. So it's tough in that regard. But
it is tough in that regard to have them not win back-to-back titles. And
it's almost something, I don't know, I think it's almost good for the Warriors, being some of the young guys. It's good that Draymond Green did that when he did. I think he learned a lot. He's going to look at the finals and go, hey, we had a chance to close this thing out, and I was on the bench. I think it's good for a lot of these guys. Clay, Steph, Draymond Green, Festus Ezeli, a lot of these guys are young guys. I mean, Iguodala, Bogut, Livingston. You're talking even some of the guys coming off the bench, some of the back. These guys are not 36, 37 at the end of the rope. This is a team that can reload and depending on the free agent moves that they make, can be right back in a position to do this thing again next year. So I think it's almost good for them that they didn't get that back-to-back because it shows some of the areas that the Warriors need to mature in. And Steve Kerr hit a lot of them on the head and a lot of his – I think Steve Kerr is an excellent coach. They need to get better in some of the different areas, and I think this loss – teaches them some of those things. So I don't think it's all bad. Yes, it hurts now. Yes, it's fresh now. But hats off to Cleveland because LeBron and Kyrie absolutely played out of their minds the last 3 games of the season, and they won the NBA title because of it.
LeBron James wins unanimous NBA Finals MVP, and you can certainly make the argument, and it probably would have happened, that he would have won the MVP anyway, whether or not Golden State won, because he led all players in every single statistic. I will never understand how LeBron James is the most irrationally, unfairly criticized athlete of probably ever. I will never understand why all of the criticism is lobbed towards him. He is one of the best certainly the best player in my lifetime to sit down and watch. And all they've done over the last 12, 13 years is pick, snipe. You'll never be Jordan. Derrick Rose is better than you. Kevin Durant's better than you. Melo's better than you. And he finally wins a title in Cleveland, which possibly opens the door for him to leave again because, well, he got the city a title.
He delivered on the promise.
He delivered on the promise. Is there a chance he goes somewhere else? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know. But here's what I do know. It was tough to watch Dan Gilbert hold that trophy for me last night. It was tough for me to watch how he wrote that letter, and he didn't take it down until 10 days before LeBron James signed with the team. And then he just kind of flatly played it off like, oh, we all screw up and make mistakes. That was on your team's website the entire time he was in Miami. And the personal things you said about him. Did you see during the trophy ceremony? LeBron wouldn't even look at him. If you look at the body language, it seemed like he didn't even want to be around him. And it was... That's
why I'm saying it's not out of the realm of possibility, I think, that LeBron skips again, because you're exactly right. If you look at just, I don't know, the way that the franchise handled it and ownership handled it, management handled it, I think he still has a grudge. And I
would too.
It's not I would too. It's not. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he leaves again or he'll just get Gilbert fired, but that's very difficult.
Well,
to do.
He's the owner, so he can't
himself.
do that.
But he could fire the GM. He got David Blatt fired, so that's call it what it is. I think Ty Lue is an excellent coach, so I think it was a good move there. But I don't think David Blatt was a bad coach. But we can talk about that at a different time. But I would hold that grudge. I really don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that LeBron James skips town. He delivered on his promise. He owes nothing to the city of Cleveland. Yes, he's from their hometown, yada, yada, yada. Guys have showed that hasn't mattered in the past.
No, it really doesn't. And I kind of look at it through the prism of, look at all of the things LeBron has done for Dan Gilbert. When the 4 years that he left, they were the worst team, and they had the worst record in the league. The second LeBron signed with Cleveland, the value of the franchise went up $600 million. It doubled his net worth. He should be indebted to this guy forever.
Yeah, that's a good point.
For everything. That team was worth $500 million. The next day he came back was worth $1.1 billion. His net worth went up $600 million.
That's amazing.
The second he came back.
That's amazing.
According to Forbes.com. And when you think about the things that Gilbert said to him and the things that the fans of Cleveland said and did to him, burning his jersey, calling him LeBum James, allegedly sending death threats to his family, I don't know how he could have come back to Cleveland. Think of how, in your job, in your radio, if you left Delta State and the 88 Delta State, man, that Cody guy, you would not believe how selfish he is. He thinks he's Mr. Hotshot. But let me tell you something. We don't need him. Like, and then a couple years later, Delta State's pounding on your door trying to get you back the second your contract goes up. I don't know how he could go back.
Yeah, it would be difficult. It would be difficult for me because that you kind of hit the nail on the head there. There was a lot of, and at the end of the day, the fans don't care who you are. They want a title. They want a championship. They want their team to be the champions of the National Basketball Association. They don't care if it's LeBron James. They don't care if it's Melo. They don't care if it's Durant. It could be anybody. It could be frickin' Chandler Parsons and frickin' Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. If they win a title, it doesn't matter.
Whatever happened to Michael Kidd-Gilchrist?
I don't even know. It doesn't even matter who you are. The fans want a title. The fans are, you saw, they're absolutely ruthless. He leaves.
They turn on him overnight.
Turn on him, and he's back, and he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. He's like, you guys just thought that I was the devil for leaving, and now I don't. Now we win a championship, and you're ready to erect a statue. It's just amazing how fast that turns. It's unbelievable to me.
It reminds me of Boston with Bill Buckner, and how everybody almost 20 years later was still cursing and wishing death upon Bill Buckner. And then the second they won in 04, it's like, hey, Bill, we love you again. No hard feelings. Yeah. And then, and if you talked, and they did an interview with him, and they talked to him about that he didn't come back until after they won the second title in 2007. Because, you guys crapped on me for 20 years. And the second you win, it's like, so, we cool? And it's kind of a weird dynamic between athlete and fan. And
it'll always be that way.
It always will be. And I just felt weird watching Dan Gilbert win and hold that title. I was kind of hoping for Golden State to achieve history, see something we've never done, cap off 73-9 with the championship. I think that team is going to lose several key pieces.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see because there's going to be a little bit of money to spend, and coming off 2 straight years where you win an NBA title, you get to the finals again, you lose it in Game 7. This team has clearly shown that they can be successful. So, do they make a run at Durant? Are they going to be able to keep Bogut, Iguodala, Harrison Barnes? Are they going to choose to do that? Bogut coming off of the injury, are they going to let him go? Or are they going to match a potential offer that Harrison Barnes is going to get from somewhere? Do they keep Iguodala? There's a lot of question marks and a lot of potential moves that the Warriors need to make, but keep that team together. I mean, they could get right back to the finals again.
They definitely could. Still sticking with the NBA, on Thursday is the 2016 NBA draft. The Philadelphia 76ers have the number 1 overall pick. Lakers are picking at number 2, so at this point it's either Simmons or Ingram, and whoever Philadelphia doesn't take, LA conceivably is going to get, barring some sort of massive trade shakeup. I said before we went on air, I should say, that I don't think Ben Simmons is going to go number 1. Philadelphia needs a guy who can shoot and needs a guy who can score, and I just don't know if Ben Simmons fits that bill. He doesn't even know what shooting hand he's going to be with, plus he's not working out with any teams, and they're withholding the medical stuff, and that's kind of scary for me because we might not know if he's hurt. But if you are I don't even know who the GM of the 76ers is anymore, and it's not Sam Hinkie. Sam Hinkie probably pick some 7-foot Turkish guy and send him overseas for 3 years. Look at you, Dario Saric. But would you take Brandon Ingram number 1 overall?
I don't know. Ingram, there's still some question. He is like a full year younger than Ben Simmons, so he has a lot of room to grow. He made a ton of strides at Duke. I don't know. Defensively, I think he's still a liability. The Duke put him at the top of the 1-3-1 a lot. I think he'll get exposed at the NBA level defensively, but I think there's a lot of physical tools. I think he can grow into his body. I think the jumper is there. Number 1 overall, I don't know. Hey, considering all of the talk and the mysteries and whatever the heck is going on with Ben Simmons, I mean, Ingram could be right there. But I think there's a lot of other guys that you could potentially. You're looking at Jaylen Brown. You're looking at Dragon Bender. You're looking at Chris Dunn. There's a lot of quality guys, I think, in this draft. I think Simmons is ultimately going to go 1. I think Philadelphia's going to take him 1. And I think Ingram's going to go 2. But it'll be very interesting to see because I can see drafting Ingram on the upside, and he played extremely well at Duke, so he's deserving of one of those top spots. But I can see the upside of Ingram. But again, Ben Simmons has a lot of that raw ability, rebounds the ball extremely well. Not a great shooter. But at the same time, I think he has the tenacity to be successful at the next level. So it's going to be interesting to see what gets valued in those first couple of spots. What does Philadelphia do? What does Boston do at 3? What does Minnesota do? What does Phoenix do? It's going to be intriguing to watch.
Well, in one way or the other, I can argue that almost anyone you're going to draft is going to be raw in some aspect. I can't remember the last time a one-and-done 19-year-old guy came out being a world beater on defense. Defense is 100% an effort thing. You either want to do it or you don't. And it's one of the more underrated skills to have in the NBA. If you can be a big-time... there are guys in the leagues that are sticking right now that can't do a lick of stuff on offense, but they keep them around because they're a great defensive guy.
You get on the floor, and you stay on the floor if you can play defensively. That's why Amon Shumpert plays. He's pretty good on defense. He is not very good on offense.
That's why Kent Bazemore stuck around the league for so long.
If you can get out and defend, you will be on the floor.
The most interesting team in the draft is easily the Minnesota Timberwolves because they're getting a top 5 pick. They have Karl Anthony Towns, the Rookie of the Year. They've got Andrew Wiggins, another great player. There were some rumblings that they might try to get Jimmy Butler, but Chicago put the kibosh on that almost as quickly as that rumor got out.
Well, they're not going to give up Wiggins.
They wanted Andrew Wiggins, and Minnesota said there's no way that's happening.
I'd give him top 5 pick for Butler.
I'd give him a top 5 pick and maybe either Rubio or Levine or
oh yeah, absolutely. I'd give him top 5 pick for sure.
There is nothing in the world.
You can't part with Wiggins. You gave up. You flopped to bring Wiggins in. You've shown commitment to him. He's come out very well. Not going to give him up in that trade.
I think that there's a 60% chance, I think, that they find someone willing to take that number 5 pick. I'd say there's a good chance because if you're Minnesota, you're already a young team. I don't think you're going to get any better getting another top 5 lottery guy.
Well, I think
him.
If Chris Dunn's available, I think that's a good pick there. Would be for Minnesota.
Then you've got a crowded front court with Rubio and Levine.
Well, I don't think Rubio's in. I think Chris Dunn, there's some questions about Chris Dunn shooting the basketball, but I think from a leadership standpoint, from a point guard standpoint, I would rather have Dunn moving forward than I would Ricky Rubio right now. I mean, moving forward into the next phase of this thing for Minnesota, where you look at Towns, where you look at Wiggins, yes, it might get a little crowded, but Ricky Rubio is not the long-term answer. So why not get the tough point guard in Dunn and try to work that out? Because Rubio's not going to be the answer, I don't think, either. So Dunn doesn't work out great, but I don't think Ricky Rubio is necessarily working out great for them either. So I don't think that plays I don't think that's going to play out for the Timberwolves. But it'll be interesting to see what they do. I can see them going a bunch of different ways.
Who do you think could conceivably trade for the number 5 pick? That if they call them up, say, we'll give you this and this right now for the number 5 pick.
I don't know. There's a lot of teams that always are looking to shop picks and move up. I don't know. I think there's a lot of guys you don't. I don't think there's a lot of difference in moving up to 5 to draft Chris Dunn versus guys that could be available 7 through 10. Marquise Chris from Washington. You're looking at Jamal Murray could be there. You're looking at Buddy Hield could be there.
Dragon Bender might be there.
Bender might be there. So I don't think you have to necessarily package picks together. Now, if you're using that to get a player back in return that's going to help you immediately, maybe so. But there's not a whole heck of a lot of difference between Ben Simmons and Brandon Ingram, in my opinion, between those two guys that are rumored to be 1 and 2 versus the Jaylen Browns, the Marquise Chris's of the world, who is an impeccable two-way athlete who I think will do good things in this league. You're looking at Bender, you're looking at Jamal Murray, you're looking at Buddy Hield, Chris Dunn. I don't think there's a lot of difference there, so I don't know if anybody's necessarily trying to jump up to 5 to get the cornerstone, because I don't think there's necessarily any of those guys in this draft.
If I'm the Atlanta Hawks, I would call up the Minnesota Timberwolves and say, we'll give you Jeff Teague, because Teague wants out. We'll give you Jeff Teague, our first-round pick this year, and our first-round pick next year right now for the number 5 pick. And maybe throw in a player to make the salaries work or whatever. But if you're a team like Atlanta who's kind of stuck in the Eastern Conference no man's land, or like a Memphis where you're kind of there already, but if you feel like you can trade up and you feel like you can trade up and get the guy that you think can push you just a little bit further.
One of my favorite guys in this draft is Wade Baldwin IV out of Vanderbilt at the point guard position. Really like him. He's going to be in that 10-15 range, I think. Could go to Utah at 12, but I really like that guy. I really like that kid. Excellent defender, very good three-point shooter, shot 40%. He's 20 years old. He sees the floor really well. He had north of 6 assists. If you're looking at per 40-minute totals, you're looking at north of 6 assists. 6'4", 7-foot wingspan for a guy that's 6'4". Helps on the defensive end. I think there's a lot of potential there. The physical tools are there, and you hear a lot about the physical tools of Ben Simmons, Brandon Ingram, all these guys. I think the tools are there for Baldwin. That length that he possesses, I think he could be a very good defender. I think he could be a very solid NBA point guard, backup point guard for someone who's going to get him in that 10 to 15 range.
There's a couple of guys I'll be interested to watch, and they were a couple of guys that were one and done. Everybody thought that Skal Labissiere in the beginning of the year was a no-doubt lottery pick, and he struggled in his first year in Kentucky, and then he left. I'm interested to see what happens to Diamond Stone. The giant from UC Irvine, Mamadou Ndiaye, can get drafted. The 7'6".
He won't get drafted, but he'll get a D-League contract.
He's got to get a D-League contract.
I don't think he'll get picked, but I think he'll get a D-League contract.
Well, if Sim Boulard can get a D-League contract, this guy certainly can. There's a couple of guys there's Kay Felder, the small guy from Oakland, the University of Oakland, Deontay Davis from Michigan State, like DeAndre Bembry from St. Joe's fame. Remember Cat Barber, NC State? Cat Barber is going to be in the draft. So there are some players, but
Domantas Sabonis,
the son of Arvydas Sabonis.
I like him a lot. He is one of my favorite players in this draft to see what happens. Also, Demetrius Jackson, the point guard from Notre Dame, is an explosive athlete. Yes, he's 6'2", but he is an extremely explosive athlete. He plays much bigger than 6'2". He can finish with the best of them. Signs are pointing to him in that 15 range, maybe to Chicago at 14. Dude, he is legit. I really, really like him. He improved in terms of distributing the ball assist-wise. He had the ball in his hand all the time. Little bit spotty shooting the three last year, but he's career almost 39%. So the question with him is how he's going to fare against bigger guys on the defensive end of the floor. But he is an explosive athlete that I think could also be a very good point guard option for a team looking for that sort of tenacious, undersized guy. I think he fits that role really, really well.
All right, last NBA draft question before we take a quick break. Out of the teams in the top 5, we know Philadelphia's not going anywhere. Lakers aren't going anywhere. Boston seems really unlikely they're going anywhere. If you had to pick between Phoenix and Minnesota, who's more likely to trade out of the top 5? Because I don't know what you can get with Phoenix. I mean, Chris Dunn might be there, but they got Devin Booker, so they don't really need him.
I think Minnesota's
more than likely.
I think Minnesota would almost be more than likely, just because they could potentially flip the pick if they can get a guy that can help them on the floor immediately, because somebody that they draft can help them out, but they've already got a very young core. They could use that pick to go somewhere else. So I would almost say Minnesota, I think, would be more inclined to trade that pick than Phoenix. That would be, if I had to pick between the two, I think Minnesota could flip that pick a little bit more logically than Phoenix would flip one of theirs.
I don't see a lot of scenarios with the Phoenix Suns trading their pick. I just thought that was an interesting question to pose because Chris Dunn might be there, but they drafted a point guard last year, so they don't really need him. All right, so we're going to take a 30-second timeout, and when Cody and I come back, we are going to talk we're going to trade some KZW stories for a little bit. And then, after that, we'll talk about the U.S. Open and Dustin Johnson winning a major. We'll be back in 30 seconds. Don't go anywhere.
It started out like a totally normal day.
I love you.
I mean, I guess I was a little sweaty and I was definitely sore. I thought I had gas. Turns out I was having a heart attack. Heart disease is the #1 killer of American women. So now I take care of my heart and I tell the women in my life to do the same.
Sounds great, by the way.
That's nice, sweetie, but that's not my heart. That is. Find out more from the American Heart Association at goredforwomen.org.
One quick point on the NBA Finals that I forgot to mention. A lot of people on social media were crapping on the officiating. I would like to commend the officials. They do a tremendous and thankless job, and I think they should get rid of the reports in the last 2 minutes. That was a dumb thing for them to do. On average, they get the calls right 86% of the time. Think about your job. If you're a weatherman and you're right 86% of the time, no one would watch any other weatherman. If you were right in gambling 86% of the time, you by 30% would be the best gambler in the world. So, can we just ease off on the officiating? They do a thankless and tremendous job. Yes, they miss a couple calls. It's human error, but be nice to your officials.
Yeah, I agree. I think the officiating was done pretty well. One of the things that I saw, and I think Stephen A. talked about, I'm not sure if Stephen A. Smith talked about it, I can't remember where I saw, but some of the calls against Steph Curry. Now, I'm a Steph Curry fan. I enjoy following the Warriors. I'm an Orlando Magic fan at heart. Struggling, it's brutal. I enjoy watching the Warriors because I enjoy that brand of basketball, and I enjoy watching Steph Curry and Klay Thompson go at it, and I have that very much shooter's mentality as well, and so I enjoy watching those guys. I'm an Orlando Magic fan at heart. Might get Skal Labissiere in the draft. Might be a good pick, but it's just a shambles. I don't even know. Send me back to 2009. But anyway, that's beside the point. I think Steph Curry got the most quote-unquote disrespect as a league MVP that I saw from NBA officials in a really long time. I don't think you look at the NBA and there's a lot of guys that quote-unquote get the calls. They get the benefit of the doubt. But I think the NBA kind of chooses those guys because Dwight Howard never got those calls.
And neither did Shaq.
Shaq never really got those calls. Steph Curry doesn't get a lot of those calls. For some of the superstar players that we've seen, the NBA, I think, kind of chooses where they want that spotlight to go because he got a lot of disrespect as a league MVP, in my opinion. There's a lot of guys, the Kobes, the Melos, the Durants, those guys, and it's an age-old argument of if the officials favor the superstars and that kind of stuff. But I think there is maybe a little bit of name recognition in that in terms of the officiating, but I think the officials did a really good job. I would like to see some rule changes. Traveling just needs to go away, or change the rule, or just get rid of traveling in the NBA because it happens all the time. Why do we have a rule if you're not going to call it? And the defense is a little bit physical. Sometimes a lot of times they reward guys using their hands a little bit too much. Guys aren't sliding over. Athletes are getting bigger and faster, stronger. It's much more difficult to officiate. I would not want to be in their shoes because what to call, what not to call, the physicality of the game is at an all-time high. You could argue in respect with, just man-to-man defense in any given section of a defensive series. But there's just some rules that I think they should tweak or look at because it's just a lot of times there's guys aren't moving their feet or they're not. And I just think if you're going to have those rules, that's the game of basketball that it was, instituted however long ago, they should be enforced. And if they're not, that's okay. I don't mind that, but I think there should be a rule change so you're following it more by the book, because I think there's a lot of rules that they could look at and maybe change in that respect.
And we're not even going to discuss the ninth circle of hell that is the block charge call.
Oh,
it's
impossible.
It's impossible in rec league. Forget about the NBA.
Yeah, it's impossible. Sorry, I went on a rant there.
No, I understand that you did youth officiating. You're passionate about officiating. I get that. But they found a tape in the 1930s. They did an interview with James Naismith. I can't even get the words out. And they were talking about when he first tried to introduce basketball, and he said there wasn't enough rules. Guys would tackle each other. There was a lot of grabbing and hitting. And one kid had a broken nose, and one kid had a couple teeth knocked out, and so he had to overhaul the game because they said it was too physical when he first started because there wasn't enough rules. So we're going to back a little bit off the sports side, and since this is one of the last times that we're going to get together in this room, we've had a lot of memories in this room and at this school. We're gonna trade some KCW stories from time to time. I remember when I first became the sports director, and when you first got here in the summer of 2012, and we tried for the longest time to get a hold of you because we didn't have a number, and I just randomly stumbled into you at the field house. I said, "Are you Cody Clark?" And you said, "Yeah." It's like, okay, cool. We've been trying to get a hold of you for a while. And you got selected for sports, blah, 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 and that's how it started.
There we go.
That's how it started. We tried to get a hold of you, and the number we had just kept going to voicemail, and we tried to call you, we texted you, nothing happened.
That's
and we're
hilarious. I don't remember this.
I remember this.
I did not remember this.
I went back and forth with Vinny. It's like, did Cody Clark drop out because I can't get a hold of him? And he's like, oh no, you'll recognize him. He's got glasses and blonde hair, and he runs cross country. I'm like, oh, okay.
No, I do not. I do not remember this.
I remember this. I remember this because that was the first interaction we ever had. It's like, I'm trying to track down this Cody Clark kid, and
sorry, I don't remember this. So now I feel bad.
Who he is. I remember the first radio show we did together, and we traded theories back and forth, and I was like, okay, this kid's gonna be something special.
Oh, it's fun. It's always fun. I think, it's been a good run. A lot of good memories. Being on air, calling basketball games with you, calling basketball games with Vinny. That was always fun.
And also, don't forget about Steve Jenkins.
Wednesday meetings when Carlos was manager. That was
fun.
Oh,
those were always fun.
Those were fun. We've had some fun ones the past couple of years when I've had it. We've had some good Wednesday morning meetings. Those have been pretty fun too.
I kind of miss some of those Wednesday morning meetings.
Those have been pretty fun too. But it's been a good time.
And the handful of times Betsy and Sean would crash a meeting for no reason.
Hey, where else can you just scan your card, walk in the room, flick on the mic, and just start talking?
Nowhere. I don't know.
Nowhere. I mean, it's the greatest thing. If I'm feeling it, I can walk through the door, I key in, cue it up, pull up ESPN, pull up something else, take off the music, go live, and I can just talk about sports. We can just talk about sports. That's the greatest thing in the world.
It is the best thing in the world, and it'd be great if we could continue our lives and just do this stuff for a living. Remember when you had to run music because nobody else wanted to do it? Because we burned through 3 directors in a year and a half because nobody wanted to do it, and then Mark would bring the tubs into the Wednesday meeting and said, everybody grab 5 CDs because they were just stacking up by his door, and it was...
Hey, they're still stacking up. It's almost impossible
they're
to keep
still
up with
stacking
those
up,
things.
and they're still there.
Drowning in those things.
Oh, I don't know what he's going to do with all those CDs.
Strauss is on it.
Strauss is on.
He gets it done. They get it done, man. I swear, we're drowning in those things. You can never catch up. You swear you go through 20 of them, and there's 50 more. It's like, where did these daggone things come from?
I remember when I first became director that sophomore year, and I was still running stuff by Vinny, and Vinny had to keep reminding me, "You're in charge now. You get to make those decisions.
You don't have to ask.
You don't have to clear stuff with me. You can just do it." And the first game I did as a director was the first night game we had. We had fireworks, and the only other person available to do the game was Maggie Holly. And I'd never met her. I didn't know what she looked like. She was the only person who circled that she was available that date. So I met her 10 minutes before the game, and we did a quick back and forth, and then we put the headsets on, and we just went at it,
That's
and it was
hilarious.
I had no idea who she was. We talked to each other like 10, 15 minutes before the game. Like, I was sitting in the booth. She came up. We shook hands
You
a little
Evan?
bit.
Yeah, you
he's
Maggie?
like, "Are you
yeah,
Evan?"
okay,
He's
let's
like,
do this thing.
I'm assuming you're Maggie because you're the only girl in here. So it was so that was my first interaction with as a director when Vinny had to keep
hilarious.
texting me, "You're in charge now. You get to make those kinds of decisions." And it was a lot of fun, and it's in good hands with Jared Becker now, and he's gonna do great things. He's gonna do great things with it. So I'm sure that you have a fair share of funny stories. I have one about you that you might not remember.
Oh Lord! Well, hey, clearly I didn't remember the field house and that incident, so I probably don't remember. So go ahead.
I can't even. I think it was your freshman year. I can't remember.
We'll see if I
But
remember.
there was a guy on the other team named Ali Sandercock, and he scored a goal. And you, without missing a beat and didn't even think about it, said, "And Sandercock slides it in for the score." And then you thought about it, and the whole room went silent. And then the score operators just burst out laughing.
Oh Lord!
because they can
I
hear
did
the whole
not.
thing.
I do not remember.
I
this.
remember
If there's
this.
audio of this, this is gonna come back to haunt me.
I remember this because
I hope there's not audio of
You
this.
said it, and then you thought it, but you processed it for a second, and you're just like, "Oh no!"
Well, it's probably exactly what happened. He just
I know, but it's just the way you
Oh,
said it,
man.
and everybody on the other end's just laughing.
that hopefully
Like you said
is
that.
buried
I can't.
forever.
I don't even remember.
I don't remember this, so hopefully that is buried, long
I
gone,
remember this.
forgotten.
I remember this because I had somebody who was in that booth ask me if they remember that Ali Sandercock story. I was like, "Yeah, that was great," because you said it, and then you paused for a second, and you processed it, and you looked at me, and you're like,
Oh,
"Oh no,
shit.
why did I just say that?" And it was.
Oh my god!
It was a great. It was
I don't
a
remember
great
all
moment.
these. That's probably better that I don't.
It was a great moment.
Like I said, there's
That tape
hopefully
is
there's
buried
no
somewhere.
there's no tape. There can't be. That had to be like really early.
That was
I
maybe
Probably
your
lost the
freshman
flash
year.
drive it was
That's
on.
been at least.
I don't know.
That's been at least 3 or 4 years.
Oh,
Like it was a
God.
long,
I've grown a lot
long
since
time
then.
ago.
Grown a lot since then.
I'm sure that I'm sure you have a fair share of funny stories.
Not as good as those. I do not remember that. That's unbelievable. I'm trying to rack my brain.
I remember
and I
that
got
one
nothing.
because I was right there listening to it, and it's like that's gonna stick out forever.
I got absolutely nothing. I hope that's buried, long forgotten. You're gonna do an interview one day, and I'm gonna be like, God damn it, Evan, why do you keep
And
bringing
it's like,
that story
no,
up?
like you're gonna do an interview with somebody. Let's play the tape, and you're gonna be like, "Oh my God, where did you get
Where
this?"
did you find this?
You talked to Evan, didn't you?
You
talked to Evan, didn't you?
you found this. How did you find
I
this?
was like, "Oh my God, where did you get this?" Like
These-
it
those
was.
better be. You know
I
what?
thought- I thought we buried those copies and threw them in the river.
Very, very thankful to get on air right away because you work out a lot of kinks and you try a bunch of stuff out and you don't like it at all when you
Yeah.
listen. Man, it
I
just
can't-
goes away.
I can't listen to my freshman year stuff. I'm awful.
It just goes away and you grow and learn from it and you just keep on moving.
I'm sure that you have to have some, like, not just KCW stories, but just funny Waldorf stories. You have to have some Waldorf stories.
Well, I mean, there's
Tell me an Abby Bueller story.
a lot of
You've
stuff
You've
I
got to
can,
have a Bueller
there's
story.
a lot of stuff I can't say on air.
You've
But
got to have a Bueller
there's
story.
a lot of fun times. No, not really. I don't remember anything specific. I don't know, just the whole
I mean,
the sum of the 4 years. I think, it's not necessarily one moment that sticks out clearly because I can't remember everything, but I think it's just the culmination of all of it, I would say. I mean, there's been a lot of fun times and a lot of laughs, and I can't even remember all of them.
I remember that we once made a passing Call of Duty reference in an interview, and because she racked up like 30 kills, and I said it would make the most jaded COD player.
Oh my
And
Lord.
and Bueller just kind of looked at me like she had no idea what that was. And then after the interview, she's like, "What is that?"
What
and
it-
and I had to
then you have to
explain.
explain it?
I had to explain what Call of Duty was to her, which I thought was actually kind of funny.
Oh, Lord.
I don't think she remembers that, but she seems
Probably
like
not. You have an excellent memory, Evan. You just need to start writing these things down.
She seems to be the kind of person who she has, like, there has to be some stories 'Cause she seems like the kind of person that would
Dude, you need
have
to,
fun
you
times.
need to write these down because you remember all of them.
I remember.
Clearly, I don't remember anything.
these because I went back and I went back on my old computer and like through old files on flash drives and just found all these tapes and just started. And I after I slogged through the hours of just terrible, god awful radio I did my first couple of years, with the exception of my one interview with Greg Blue, that was fun.
That's good.
You
gotta write it. You gotta write these down. This could be an amazing book.
I don't know if anybody'd read it because nobody knew who any of these guys are.
That's true. Yeah, but it'd be funny for us. It'd be funny for all of us.
It would be funny for all of us. And I remember when I went on my first trip to Jamestown, I asked Derek if he was going to use a hotel soap. He's like, no, I brought my own. I was like, great, because I'm stealing all the soap.
Oh,
so
Lord.
I raided the shower and I took everything.
That's
that first
hilarious.
time there. But like, I'm sharing all this. I'm dominating the conversation here. You have to share something.
You're dominating the conversation. You have these good stories. We're hearing them from you.
I'm sure that
great.
you have to have at least one.
I have a couple, but we can't share them on air. So
all
we
right,
gotta.
fair enough.
We gotta.
Fair enough. Do you remember the story I told you and Lufkin off air that one time we were doing CC Sports about that time I got elbowed by a 5-foot chick girl in high school?
Yes, that was a great story. That is a good one.
I don't even know if she remembers this, but hi Jess, if you're listening. It was my sophomore year, so this was about 2008 when this happened, and I was the basketball manager for both the men's and women's teams at Forest City High School. And there were a couple of times where they would just let me scrimmage with the girls. And I hit a couple of shots and, I'm feeling a little confident. And I think it's a good idea to talk trash to Jess Spada, who was the point guard at the time. And when we're coming up the floor, she got underneath me and just elbowed me and just gave me a forearm right under the chin. And of course, the coach, I was looking at the coach, Chad Angel, for a foul, and Angel just kind of shook his head at me and said, you kind of had that one coming. And I look back at it now and it's like, yeah, I really did have that one coming.
That's a great story.
That is a great story. Like, I thought it would be a great idea to trash talk Jess Spada, which was one of the dumbest things I ever did in my high school life. And then she just gave me a little chicken wing underneath the chin.
Catch that elbow. You caught that elbow.
Yes. And you know what else? And someone else caught something this weekend. Dustin Johnson cost a penalty.
Oh my Lord.
Caught a penalty at
that was ridiculous.
At the U.S. Open. Well,
that was ridiculous.
It didn't matter because he won by 4 strokes anyway.
It doesn't matter. That was absurd. The United States Golf Association they issued a statement today which said it regretted the distraction caused by our decision to wait until the end of the round to decide on the ruling, which led to a 1-stroke penalty for U.S. Open winner Dustin Johnson. If you are not familiar with what happened, he went up. He thought his ball moved. He went up to play his ball. He didn't ground his putter. He went up to the ball. He thought he saw the ball move, so he backed away, called a rules official over, and he allowed Johnson to proceed, even though the ball moved ever so slightly. He made the 6-foot par putt. The official did not assess the penalty at that moment. They said they would look at it. It ultimately resulted in the penalty shot, which didn't cost him a major or anything like that. But just assess the penalty on spot, or don't assess the penalty, and don't wait until the end of the round at a major tournament and let that decision. I mean, yes, he's up by, he ended up winning by 4 strokes, but you're taking a stroke away. Do it on the spot, committed the infraction, or he didn't. Yes, in hindsight, they got time to look at it, but they ended up assessing the penalty. So just assess the penalty right away if you think it happened. I would rather you go back and apologize for that than say, oh, we'll make a decision on it after the round is over. Let him play out this whole round with this on the back of his mind, and then say, yeah, we'll hit you with the penalty. You're still the winner, but you won by 3 strokes instead of 4.
And, well, you got to remember, this is the sport in golf where they have people sitting at home, and they call the USGA to report rules infractions. Like, can you imagine what would happen if every other sport did that? How the NFL would be flooded with calls for people that think they missed holding penalties or pass interference penalties. Like,
can you imagine if there's a hotline and be like, you constantly get calls. It'd be like, oh, Draymond traveled. Oh, I saw LeBron. Oh, Kevin Love, that was a carry. That was a Bogut. He got him on the arm. That was a foul. You missed that one. Can you imagine if there's a hotline for that? Or like, clearly pass interference on Richard Sherman. Oh, dude, you missed that hold on Jeff Saturday inside. What are you doing?
You missed the false start on 3rd and 5.
Dude,
like,
he moved. Clearly he flinched. His left eyebrow flinched. I saw it on my 72-inch flat screen, so you got to call that. I mean, can you imagine if there was a hotline for that? It'd be ridiculous. But I think that was terrible of them to wait until the round was over for that to loom over. That's ridiculous.
That has to be the worst job in the world. Like manning the NFL officiating hotline, where every fan for every team is going to blow up your hotline, and all you can do is say, "Thank you for the call." Like, that has to be, if that is a real thing, that has to be the worst job in the world.
I'm very glad that the USGA issued the apology. I mean, you had Jordan Spieth, Fowler, Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy, all these guys.
Unanimous support.
Like, what is the USGA doing? Stop! That is ridiculous for you to do that in the middle of his round and not make that decision. Give him the stroke on site, or don't. I don't know. It's not one of those things where I didn't see it, so I can't say. But just reading about the incident, it wasn't one of those things where I don't think he touched the ball as so much as when he set his putter and went to start his backstroke, he thought the ball moved, so he thought he caused the ball to move. He didn't hit the ball and cause it to move, but he thought the ball moved. So you have rules officials that are there to watch that sort of thing. So yes, it's easier to review that, but maybe review it after the hole and assess the penalty right there. I don't get why they had to wait till the end of the round to assess the penalty. That's what I don't understand about all this.
Because worst case scenario, he wins by a stroke, and then they say, oh yeah, you're in a playoff now.
Then they take it away and you're in a playoff. That's why do it after the hole.
Wasn't Dustin Johnson also the guy who grounded his putter, got a penalty stroke, and cost himself a tournament?
I'm not sure.
I know somebody did.
I don't remember that, but it just didn't make sense for them to wait. That made no sense to me. Like in basketball. Flagrant foul happens, contact to the groin, the head occurs, they stop, they review it. If it is, call it. If it's not, great, we play on. Golf, look at it. If it is, assess the penalty right there, loses the stroke. If not, we move on. But don't make him sit through the round on the last day of a professional tournament. He's trying to win his first. Don't do that. That is not cool.
I felt great watching him win because I was so sorry for him when he lost in that fashion at the U.S. Open last year, and also Joe Buck calling golf. Can you think of a more odd pairing than Joe Buck calling golf? I don't know, maybe Gus Johnson doing tennis. That'd be kind of weird, but
yeah,
I can't think of a more odd pairing between broadcaster and sport. All right, so we're gonna do some. We're gonna have some parting shots before we go. And speaking on rules, this might be just a little thing for me. There's this one thing about the NBA that I will never understand, and I've sort of come to terms that I will never understand. But can we do something about the flagrant foul accumulation rule and just the language of flagrant fouls in general? Like, the idea that, can you imagine what would happen if in the NFL they suspended Richard Sherman because, that was your 12th pass interference penalty, and once you get a dozen, you have to be suspended for a game? Like, I don't know why that's a thing. Like, can you imagine what would happen if in baseball there was, that was the 10th batter you've hit this season, so you're suspended for your next start? I will never understand why they do that. Can they please get rid of that rule? It makes no sense. And while we're at it, maybe clean up the language of a flagrant foul. Like, how we can't judge whether it was excessive or unnecessary contact. Just stop with the flagrant foul accumulation. Just please.
Yeah, no, I will buy into that. I don't know. It makes sense to me in the respect that if you keep having, you do this X amount of times, you get suspended. That makes sense to me, but I can see where you're coming from, and I don't necessarily, disagree with you in that respect. The traveling thing really is a big deal for me. I mean, just change it, get rid of it. I mean, you have, and I understand you have, traveling occurs on every play, really. But if you look at this, I mean, guys are blatantly changing their pivot foot. I mean, as an official, I know there's a lot of stuff to watch on the floor, but a lot of times I feel like you're right there. And you might as well just let these guys, just hop on along. I mean, the Shaq'd in a Fool video. Have you seen the Shaq'd in a Fool travel video?
Those things are fun.
I mean, it's 13, 14, 18 steps these guys are taking, changing pivot foots. Like, I think we need to be more attuned to that as officials, because that is one of the, staple, most cut and dry deals in basketball is that. And it's guys walking all over the place. It's ridiculous. I get, 4-5 steps from an explosive athlete, but we're talking about, like, catches it with his right foot at his pivot, turns to face the basket or turns to face away from the contact, and all of a sudden now his left foot is his pivot. What the heck's going on here? That really drives me nuts. Really drives me nuts.
It's not. That has always been a little peeve of mine.
I don't know, but it just drives me nuts.
The flagrant foul accumulation rule. Just, why do we have it? I understand the need for flagrant fouls because nobody wants to see that kind of stuff, but the accumulation rule.
Also, can we get rid of the retirement, the parade in the last season? Because now David Ortiz is getting it. And David Ortiz is like, dude, I'm tired of it. Like, this is ridiculous.
Oh, speaking of retirement, can we get rid of the one-day contract thing? You retire with the last team you actually play for. The one-day contract things mean nothing. You retire to me as the team that you last actually played for.
Yeah, but see, I guess it's a matter of opinion, because if you signed a contract, if I sign a one-day contract with the Cleveland Browns, and I'm technically a Cleveland Brown, and then I retire as a Brown. But I get what you're saying. You didn't actually play because it's a one-day contract. I get what you're saying there, but it does make sense.
It does make sense, and I think that's a good note to end on. We will be back Thursday night for the 2016 NBA Draft. We will cover up to at least the lottery, maybe the whole first round. We're not sure yet, but we're going to get back to our regularly scheduled programming here on KZOW. This will be up on the Evan Eichen Radio YouTube channel tomorrow morning or early afternoon. So for those of you who are interested in listening to Cody and I on YouTube, it'll be up on there tomorrow. For Cody Clark, I'm Evan Eichen. Let's get back to the regularly scheduled music programming here on KZOW 91.9 Active Radio. Thank you, and we'll see you on Thursday.